there's one or two students, children that you have, but, in a classroom that there's 25, depending on where you are in high school. If you're an elective, whatever, there's 18 here. Do they have even a warm body in there? Do they have a substitute? I mean, there's still a lot of, I think they said just in Brevard County is 350 new teachers this year,
Oh, wow.
which
That's a
is
lot.
huge. And, and there's still vacancies. There's still, because again, call it what it is. I mean, education, it's been tough.
Yeah.
And, I talk about it all the time. I said, when COVID happened, it really, it just, so many demographics were changed. And so it's like everybody's trying to get back, but just know we're all about protecting and keeping your baby safe, as much as we can. And that's mentally, emotionally, and physically. But
Right. But even saying that, like keeping their baby safe and you're trying to do all the things at the same time, that shouldn't be the expectation on the teachers because, I mean, even so back, when I was in school or even when my kids were younger, teaching has changed so much
Mhm.
and teachers have changed so much. And I don't necessarily blame the teachers. I really don't. I think it's the system that has affected how teachers perform now because what are the expectations? And, as parents, we put even more stress and more pressure on teachers to figure out what's wrong with their kid. Why are they behaving this way? Why are you failing my child? Why are you doing this? And it's like, go back to what your role was. And I think if people focus more on their role in their family, things would be a lot easier because there's things that are out of the teacher's control at the end of the day. And like I said, you're a teacher, you've been a teacher. I'm not even a teacher. I'm looking at it from a parent's perspective
Mhm.
and, just being and knowing so many teachers. And I just hear, all these things that have changed and their passion is a lot of people are losing that passion. And just like you said, the 350 new teachers, I'm like, that's amazing. I'm so happy to hear that. But I'm also worried for them. I'm worried that we're going to burn them out too. And they're going to be like, why did I start teaching? And that's terrible because teachers are so important.
Well, and you nailed it, and we saw it. Like I said, I've been teaching almost, in and out of the classroom for, almost 30 years. And I loved, I mean, school was my escape. I mean, I'm very open about, sports, and my coaches basically saved my life, because, that was the thing. Even growing up, it's like if you did have struggles at the house, you could excel in school, and everybody was there, and you knew you had like this community. And I do explain this to my students even now, and I said, what's happening is that community is not there anymore. And so a lot of that, these kids are not having a safe space anywhere. And then, of course, when we knew that, teachers they taught the curriculum, they were allowed to teach. And then, of course, we know there's a lot of things. I'm not going to get into everything, but a lot of it went into data, 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 data. And so what
Mhm.
happened, you dehumanize your teachers and you also dehumanize your students. And so when you take the human factor out of a human experience, it doesn't work. And so, and it didn't happen overnight, but I think even now, and it's just interesting because one of our, um, new student interns that we're working with is still an active teacher. And I mean, they've basically said that, teachers cannot do anything extra without parents' consent. And so I kind of like it because, again, we know when everything started to shift and we started raising kids, not teaching them, raising them, which, again, I love them. But I love that they're putting that responsibility back on parents.
That's
That's where it's
good.
supposed to be. Raise your
Absolutely.
children.
Absolutely.
We cannot do more work than
Right.
you.
Because some parents, and I was in the school system for, 3 years as a social worker at an elementary school. And just even work like having a duty in the parent loop where, parents drop their kids off. Some parents drop their kids off as if it was a daycare and you couldn't reach the parent all day if there was, some emotional issues with their child. And so they put a lot on the school or on the teachers to do, things that they should be doing. So I think that's a great idea that, parents, that's a way to get parent involvement. Like,
Mhm.
put the expectations back on the parents to perform and to produce what they need before that child is even dropped off at the school, and make sure that you're connected with the teachers, you're on board with the teachers, and your child knows that you and the teachers have a connection and that you're working together. Because a lot of times there's some things dropped in the middle where it's like the child, you know, does, whatever in the classroom and then goes and tell the parents something different. So as long as when you let your kids know, okay, we're a team. Your teacher, we're all three of us, we're a team, or all four of us,
That's a
however,
good point
it's a
too.
team,
Is the
right?
team
Everybody's on the same page.
Yep.
Well, and also is accountability.
That's what it breeds.
Mhm.
Definitely. Yeah,
And,
definitely.
and one of the biggest things is, and I'm sure everybody's well aware, the phone policies, which they have to happen. And even with that, and of course, everybody has their own opinions or whatever, but I'm like, when you take away the role of the teacher to then, it's like she can't protect or he can't protect her. I always say, if I don't know and then I don't know how to have my protocols or if I'm lost and I'm not in it, and then all of a sudden I get blindsided by my principal or admin going, "Hey, this parent said," and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Like, and I think that's a lot what was happening too, because kids are like texting or calling mom or doing all this stuff and everything, and the teachers have no idea. And if there was ever a situation, it was like, that is where you build that connection with that student. That's between you, and if I go, "Hey, Miss Johnson, like, I turned that paper in and you have a 0 on it," that's our thing. I don't want mom and dad screaming at, Miss Johnson going, "You didn't put this grade in for my child." And who's your child? Like, you see what I'm saying? There's all these things, and it just creates such a hurtful, there is no team in that point. And it's just like, this is a bad teacher. That's a bad student. These are bad parents. Everybody hates everybody. And it's just, it
Mhm.
just doesn't
That's
work.
what I mean.